Originally I wanted to release a video about Garen and Katarina, and how their relationship was confirmed to be real. You know, since it was Valentine's Day. But then I thought, I can spread more love by covering the latest incredibly long story so that you don't have to read it. And so, here we are. Let's have a look at the latest story on Universe that features our favorite ninjas. It also may be a prequel to the teased cinematic. Or it may be a teaser for the next champion. Which honestly is probably what this is. We are likely looking at a future champion. It is teased in the exact same way as Silas, who also started as a side character with his own story. But weeks later he became a champion. And so, without further ado, here's the story called The Bow and the Kunai. The story begins in Ionia, a little bit more than 10 years ago, which means that it still happened after the Noxian invasion, after Zed killed Master Kusho. It introduces a 12-year-old kid called Faye, who was hiding in a forest. She was one of the neophytes of southern Chonzan. Faye and the fellow kids were on the hunt for a boar. Not only so they wouldn't go hungry, but also so they could prove to the Kinko acolytes that they are worthy of proper missions. After Zed broke the Kinko apart, the adults needed hope, and Faye was ready to make them see it. After a while there was rustling in the woods, and a large boar popped into view. Its fur was rippling with shimmering glow, which meant that it just emerged from the spirit realm. Faye readied her bow and arrow, hoping that everyone would follow the plan. And as the boar got within range, another neophyte dropped down from a tree, dangling from a vine wrapped around her foot. She waved her spear in front of the boar and cast a modest magical wind. This made the boar turn around and run the other way. But yet another neophyte was already dangling there. This time they summoned a small cloud of ash to blind the boar. More and more neophytes descended down from the trees, all showing their fighting spirit. And yet the oldest one of them was only 13 years old. The kid successfully made the boar run towards Faye, who held her bow ready. As she lined her shot with the boar's eye, even the vine that held her dangling shifted to help her aim. But before the arrow went loose, another kid dropped down from a tree with a joyous scream, but this one landed on the boar. The beast immediately went berserk, with the kid bouncing on its back. Faye was furious because the little rider who interrupted their hunt was young Akali. She held onto the boar for a while, but eventually she was backed off, and Akali landed face first on the forest ground. Faye was justifiably mad at her. Not only did Faye tell Akali to not follow them, but had she not interrupted them, they would have succeeded. Akali just replied that she wanted to help, and as an apology she would give Faye her dinner plum. After that, the story explains what happened after Zed marched onto the Kinko monastery. After Zed's attack, the Kinko retreated east, to an abandoned temple in the mountains, called Tanjul. Although the following years brought chaos, the Kinko made sure they would stay hidden in the mountains until they set up a solid base. Then we get back to Faye. She and the neophytes stood beside the green lagoon of the Tanjul temple. Before them there was Mayhem, Jomen, Tethi, the Fist of Shadow. Mayhem was mad at the neophytes for not only hunting without permission, but because they were outside the perimeter. They could have revealed their location to the patrolling warbands. The kids defended themselves that they had a perfect plan, and that it was ruined only because of Akali. But Faye stepped out, and admitted it was all her fault. She was the one who gathered all the kids for a hunt. Secretly, Faye admitted this because Mayhem was Akali's mentor, and she was grateful that a Kinko leader would take a neophyte under her wings, especially during these dark times. But all she said aloud was that they wanted to get some boar meat for the last day of the Spirit Blossom Festival. A hint of emotion crossed Mayhem's face, and then she dismissed everyone after announcing their punishment. No meal tonight. But before Faye was able to leave, Mayhem stopped her for a quick chat. Mayhem explained that she knew what Faye was trying to do, but there was nothing to prove. What's worse, the silver boar they were hunting were not meant for their consumption. It came from the spirit realm. Killing it would bring more harm than good. Faye thought that they were allowed to hunt it anyway, but Mayhem replied not anymore. And she explained that Noxus broke the cycle of predators. They hunted animals near extinction, and they cut down magical trees. The war was causing unintended damage, which resulted in a major disturbance of balance between the material realm and the spirit realm. Faye asked her if there is a way to restore balance, and to return things to how they were before. Mayhem replied that is not so simple anymore. The story briefly mentions the fact that the land beneath them resembles statues from an ancient era. Of course, this is a reference to the mysterious titans that occupied Ionia millennia ago. But more importantly, The Titans are surrounded by swords stuck in the ground, and these swords match the newest champion teaser. So just keep this in mind for the future. It's just another hint that this is a connection to the next champion. Anyway, as Faye and Mayhem's conversation continued, Faye mentioned that the boar they were hunting emerged from the spirit realm already angry. This concerned Mayhem. This probably meant that the spirit realm around the temple was also damaged, despite the fact that the battles are happening far away. Faye wanted to help and she asked Mayhem for a real mission. But Mayhem seized the opportunity and she told her the reason why Faye was held back. The other neophytes followed her, and they saw a leader in her. Mayhem wanted it to stay that way since she had a positive influence on everyone. But more than that, she had a positive influence on Akali. Somehow, Faye saw this as a bad thing. She was secretly mad at Akali for holding her back, because she knew that until all of the neophytes were able to fight, she wouldn't be promoted to an acolyte. After that, Mayhem assured Faye that if she keeps growing her skill, she would be bound to succeed her as the next Fist of Shadow. But Faye wondered, when that day arrives, will there still be a Kinko order? The story then cuts to Akali. She was studying calligraphy. The lesson was really boring, but she was rescued by Kennen, who appeared at the entrance. Akali joyfully just scribbled something on her paper and then she ran after him. The teacher tried to stop her, but then they noticed it was indeed Kennen, the heart of the Tempest, who awaited her. And so she was let off the hook. Akali and Kennen played catch until Akali could barely breathe. Of course, catching Kennen was impossible. But then, out of nowhere, Kennen told her that she shouldn't feel bad about messing up the neophytes' hunt. The other kids didn't want her to come because they just thought she was too young. Akali then asked Kennen where was Shen. She missed him, and Kennen explained that he was still meditating. He was betrayed by his best friend, and he lost his father. It wasn't easy for him right now. This reminded Akali of her own father. He too was killed when Zed attacked. But Kennen quickly changed the subject. The two talked about her training with the kunai. Akali said that her mother never wants to train with her, that she rather spends all her time with Faye. Kennen explained that it might be because Mayhem went on many missions together with Faye's mother. And when Akali was just a baby, Mayhem promised to take care of Faye. This made Akali realize that although she had lost her father, Faye lost both of her parents. And so she endured double the pain. After this, Kennen simply assured Akali that she's faster than any other neophyte. And one day, she will amaze even her mother. With that, Kennen left to attend a meeting, and Akali returned to her calligraphy lesson. The scene then cuts to Faye, who was watching Mayhem and Kennen debating in the mountains. Mayhem argued that since Ionians won the battle at the Placidium of Navori, they had a chance to act. Both Noxians and Ionians were disrupting the balance, and it was the Kinko's job to put everything back to normal. These arguments made sense, since Mayhem was the Fist of Shadow, which was a title that represented pruning the tree, or the elimination of imbalance. Kennen argued that it was too soon to dive into battle. As the heart of the Tempest, his duty was coursing the sun. Whatever judgment was reached here, he would have to convey it to all Kinko members across Ionia. Faye stood a distance away from them. She was shivering up on the mountaintop. May brought her to all the important meetings because it was part of her training. No matter what they were discussing, the Kinko were able to ignore the piercing cold. Kennen continued that they have to wait. They would have to deal with Noxians, Ionian defenders who were enemies only moments ago. There were also Vastaya of uncertain allegiance, and there were spies everywhere. Kennen knew this because he managed to sneak in and out of the Placidium unnoticed. He also saw the Navori Brotherhood was on the move towards them. They went from village to village, and they snatched the young and the able to replenish their forces. They also used violence against anyone who dared to object, and they marked themselves with tiger tattoos to stand out. Mayhem still wanted to fight her way to Navori, but Kennen simply wanted to wait. After a while, Mayhem looked to the side and she said that maybe the Eye of Twilight has something to say. And with it, Shen, who was perched on a nearby stone pillar, spoke. He said that balance is being harmed by the violence of war, and that even those who follow Zed are part of it. And yet, his instincts told him that even the Shadow Order serves the balance in its own way, by fighting against the invaders who are devastating Ionia. The title of the Eye of Twilight meant watching the stars. He was meant to observe from a neutral position, so he could become informed before passing his judgment. Together, these three ninjas represented the three Kinko disciplines: watching the stars, coursing the sun, and pruning the tree. Faye was disappointed in Shen, Both Kennen and Mayhem were active at least, but all Shen did was silently watch. And indeed, some time had passed, and Shen never spoke another word. After Shen left, the others started walking back to the lagoon. Mayhem said that she sympathizes with Shen, but times like these need stronger leadership. Maybe they shouldn't expect Shen to be like Master Kusho. Maybe they shouldn't rely on blood relation when it comes to succession. Kennen disagreed, because sometimes potential does come down through blood, and he told Mayhem she should look at herself. Mayhem just frowned and she asked him back, what did he mean by that? Kennen looked at Frey who was trailing behind them, but then he just shrugged and answered, nothing. The story then cuts back to the moment Faye arrived at the temple. All the neophytes were asleep, except for Akali who sat near the entrance to their hut. Faye asked her what was she doing, and Akali showed her a plum, which she owed her for the hunt. Faye asked her where did she get that? They weren't supposed to get dinner that night. But Akali said that it is from days ago. Faye's eyes widened. She couldn't believe Akali was storing food. Akali shrugged, looking guilty, and made no reply. Her shoulders were shaking. Faye realized how afraid Akali was. Akali just wanted to keep some food in case bad people come again. She didn't want to lose anyone else. This made Faye's eyes well up, but she refused to let her tears run down. After she had lost her parents, she sobbed for multiple nights, and after that she promised to never cry again. But still, in that moment, she strongly felt for Akali, and in the end, she bit off half of the plum and gave the rest to Akali. Then an unfamiliar anger built inside her. If the Kinko order was really as important as everyone says, why did they have to suffer like that? As days passed, Faye practiced her archery. She still felt powerless about everything that was happening, so doing archery was the only thing that made sense to her. Mayhem was away on a mission, and Kennen was tasked with protecting the lagoon, but Faye often saw him running around and playing with Akali. One day, a neophyte called Hiso asked Faye if she wanted to join them in a game of Ghost in the Woods. They were going to play in the Southern Valley. Faye replied that Mayhem wouldn't like that. The Southern Valley had dangerous terrain with many landslides. But Hiso said that's why they do it only when Mayhem is away. It's the most exciting place to play. She was hesitant, but in the end Faye agreed to join them. She would just finish her training session and then she would find them. As the kids left, Faye continued her archery. All Kinko warriors had to train both their physical and meditative side. Faye was good on the physical side, but every time she was sent to meditate at the archery range, she got bored after the first couple of shots. And once again, even though she was trying to calm her mind, she felt rage and confusion. She wondered, why couldn't they beat Zed? Why did Shen have to lead them? What truly happened in the temple the day Master Kusho died? The adults never spoke of it, as if they didn't even know. At first, her fury made Faye's shots weak, but with each following arrow, she remembered her training and she calmed down more and more. Eventually, a new thought hit her mind. Maybe the adults were as confused as she was. Maybe they also don't know everything. And maybe it doesn't matter who leads them as long as they are together. After she was done with her training, she felt a sense of peace she had not felt before. And with that, she walked towards the neophytes' playground. It wasn't exactly near. It took a while to get there. But strangely enough, when she got there, the neophytes weren't there. And Faye knew something wasn't right. She quickly got her bow ready and started the search. A few moments later, there was a whistle. One of the neophytes poked out of the nearby ruins, signaling Faye to remain silent. And so, Faye got low and sneaked towards the other neophytes. When she got there, all of them, including young Akali, were awkwardly silent. They were hiding from something. And when Faye looked downhill, she saw it too. At least 20 warriors with tiger tattoos came into the valley. It was the Navori Brotherhood. A young boy named Zen said that they should warn the adults, while Omi suggested to fight them instead. But unfortunately, none of them except Faye brought any weapons. And so alerting the acolytes seemed to be their only option. The thing is, Faye realized that if they alerted the acolytes, more people would die, and balance would be damaged even more. So they had to stop the Brotherhood right then and there. Of course, the neophytes wouldn't stand a chance against the warriors, and so they had to figure out a way to make the warriors leave on their own. Faye knew the Navori Brotherhood was capturing people in order to recruit them, which meant that they had to make them believe that there was nobody to capture around. The plan was simple. They would do what they did with the boar before, except they wouldn't show themselves this time. They would make grey owl sounds, which in Ionia are considered bad omen. And just in case the Brotherhood would not get fooled by it, Faye gave Akali a special task. Should things go wrong, as the fastest of them, Akali would run back to the lagoon, and Faye would cover her with her bow. As everyone was ready to execute the plan, Faye looked around to see if everything was in check. Akali was perfectly hidden, and the Navori Brotherhood was making so much noise it was hard for any of the neophytes to alert them. However, Omi, one of the neophytes, was panicking. He was struggling to tie the vine around his waist. What's worse, one of the Navori warriors was only 10 steps away. Normally, the nature itself helped the neophytes, and the vines usually lifted them up to the trees on their own. But for some reason, the tree Omi was at wasn't helpful at all. And so, Omi quickly climbed the tree up without a vine. Then, Faye let out a high-pitched screech, and the warrior stopped. Faye screeched again, and the warriors realized the place was haunted. It was the sound of the grey owls. Some of them started to back away, but half of the warriors was still marching forward. Moments later, a tree branch slapped one of the warriors in the face, and suddenly all of them ran away. Faye stayed silent for a while longer, before finally jumping out of her cover, happy at their success. However, there was no reply to her joy. There was no sign of anyone. The volley was entirely silent. Then one of the neophytes dropped down from a tree. It was Isa. Her eyes were full of terror, as she dangled down on a vine that bound her waist and covered her mouth. It was strangling her. Several more children fell through the leaves in the same way. 2 of them dropped straight down into bushes. They were also bound by vines. Before Faye realized what was happening, the entire volley came to life. Tree trunks combined into a single body, and leaves and bushes covered it like a skin. Moments later, a 4-armed nature monstrosity stood before Faye. She knew this was a corrupted spirit, a Kinko legend. These things existed in the parts of Ionia that were affected by the brutal war against Noxus. So seeing it here was unusual. The Navori Brotherhood must have upset nature. Thankfully, although Faye never used it in combat before, she had a magical powder that repelled evil spirits. She sprinkled it on her arrow, and after calming her mind, she made sure the shot was true. After the hit, the monster released Omi from its grip. Faye commanded Omi to go and get the acolytes. However, she knew it would take at least 15 minutes to get here, and she only had 13 arrows left, so she had to act quickly on her own. She fired more and more shots and managed to free most of the children. However, 2 of them, Isa and Taich, were slowly dragged into the spirit's jagged maw. Faye realized that she can cover the escape of the other kids, but Isa and Taich would be sacrificed in the process. But considering there was no other option, she gritted her teeth and looked away. But then she noticed Akali among all the chaos. As all the other kids ran away, this little girl ran towards the monster, and then it dawned on her. Akali was never captured by this monster. She was able to dodge all of its moves. That's how fast she was. Akali shouted at the spirit, and it turned its attention to her, even forgetting it was about to eat Isa and Taich. Faye screamed at Akali to flee, but Akali ignored her. And so Faye knocked another arrow on her bow. She had to do something. As Akali got closer and closer to the monster, Faye covered her maneuvers. She loosed more and more arrows to pierce the monster's limbs. The faster Akali ran, the more the monster seemed to focus on her, which gave the rest of the kids a chance to get up and run. Part of Akali wasn't terrified, and she wanted to giggle. The monster was slow, and if Kennen was here, he would eat a bowl of noodles while dodging its attacks. Finally, Isa and Taich were free as well, and Akali was happy that she and Faye managed to work together so well. Finally, she would get some recognition from both Faye and Mayhem. The entire volley was shaking in fury now, and Faye knew it was their time to leave. She had only 3 arrows left. 2 of them were used to give Akali a clean way out. But before she could get her last arrow ready, the stony slope broke apart, and a small avalanche of rocks hit her like a heavy punch. She could taste iron in her mouth, and she could barely open her eyes. The sight around her made no sense. The stones were red, her bow snapped, and instead of her right leg, there were only crushed crimson pieces. Then her face fell on the ground, and consciousness left her. Meanwhile, Akali was dragging everyone to safety. Now there were only 2 kids to save. She was determined to never lose anybody ever again. She noticed Faye was on the ground, and she realized now she had to save 3 kids instead of 2. But Akali froze in terror when she noticed Faye's lower body. There was a moment of nothing but blank thoughts, before Akali finally snapped back to reality. Out of nowhere, there was a rain of kunais and the monster howled in pain and fury. Akali's eyes widened because Mayhem had arrived. After another storm of kunais, the monster was shredded to pieces. But it had no trouble reconstructing itself back up. Then Kennen arrived, and with one quick lightning dash, the monster was split in two. Then the third figure stepped in to finish the job. It was Shen. He climbed up the remains of the monster, and he seemingly disappeared into thin air. When Akali asked where did he go, Kennen explained that he went into the spirit realm. Unless it was destroyed there, the monster could keep reconstructing itself in the material realm. Akali was struck by awe for a short moment, before she remembered what happened to Faey. The story then cuts to the moment Faey regained her consciousness. They were back at the lagoon. Akali was sleeping beside her. She tried to sit up, but she noticed her leg was bandaged, and it was missing below the knee. A quiet sob escaped her throat. She heard the other kids in the distance. They were talking to Mayhem. It seemed like all of them were saying how Akali saved them all, and how she dragged everyone to safety, and how fast she was. Not a single mention of what Faey had done. That's when Akali woke up. Faey paused, and then she asked her, why did she have to go back into battle? Faye's head was down, voice low, and she was trying to breathe slowly to not let out any more sobs. She repeated the question, why didn't she leave when she told her to? Akali tried to give Faye a pat on her arm, but Faye snapped at her. She shouted at Akali to not touch her, and that it was all her fault. Akali backed away, her eyes wide. All the venom in Faye was flowing freely now. But then she saw Akali's face. The girl was genuinely confused and hurt. Faye hesitated, but before she could say anything else, Akali ran out towards the entrance, where Mayhem now stood, watching them. When Akali was gone, Mayhem explained what happened. Shen sensed a disturbance in the spirit realm, that's why he joined them. And still, they were too late. Had one of the kids not raised the alarm, Faye probably wouldn't even be alive. She also said that the kids told her how Faye turned the bandits away, and how she helped to avoid a major conflict. It was courageous, and it was obvious Faye now understood the way of the Kinko. And yet, to Faye it didn't matter at all. Everything was over, all the training wasted. She would never be raised as an acolyte, and another would become Mayhem's successor. But then Mayhem snapped into sadness. She apologized for being a bad influence on her, about Shen and everything, but all Faye could say in response is that she had failed her. Mayhem assured her in a broken voice that she had not failed anyone. Mayhem continued that there must be a way to let her walk again. They will search every corner of Ionia, and once they were done, they will search the rest of the world. Under Shen's leadership, together with Kennen and the rest of the Kinko, they will find a way, and they will continue training her into the best archer in the history of both realms. That's when after years Faye allowed herself to cry freely again, and Mayhem hugged her. Akali witnessed it all by peeking inside the hut. She could not remember the last time she had hugged her mother like that, so she turned and walked into the woods, tears soaking her cheeks. And that was the latest, very long and quite a sad story from Akali's childhood. Now, if you really think about it, design-wise, Faye could be a really good champion. Obviously, this story happened many years ago, so in the present days, Faye is an adult just like Akali. But more importantly, maybe she walks again. If you ask me, there are two ways they could do this. First option comes from Ionia, knowing how nature can help humans, and how it can shape to become anything. Nature could easily replace Faye's leg. But I think the story will go a different direction. The one place on Runeterra that is really well known for replacing limbs is Piltover and Zone. I think that's why the story said that the Kinko would search the world. It's because they can definitely find an answer in Zone. What would be cool about this is that the combination of Ionian traditions and Zoneite's technology is unique. We would have an Ionian archer with a mechanical leg. And perhaps since her bow was snapped, maybe this mechanical bow finally comes into play as well. So overall, there would be no other champion like this. And when releasing new champions, to Riot the ability to stand apart is the key. Now the question is this champion meant to come in the far future? Or is it planned for the next two champions this summer? Because if Faye is coming this summer, we don't know which champion it will be. The masked champion who refuses to die? You know, because she was near death in the story. Or will it be the jungler we thought would be a Vastaya? Either way, one thing is peculiar. How is it possible that a champion teaser has higher quality art than Gragas? Hey, did you know that we have social media and Twitch where we talk about other league facts and stories? And did you know that we have need mugs and shirts too? The links to all of that will be below. And as always, thank you, come again.